It's Wednesday, and we are seeing that Hurricane Imelda is officially moving away from the U.S. out into the Atlantic. Its impacts in the United States are essentially done. However, there will still be some dangerous rip currents along the coast, potentially some big swells. But other than that, the direct impacts from Imelda in the U.S. are going to be done today. We can also see a really rare sight. Here is Hurricane Imelda, and here is Hurricane Umberto. We have dual hurricanes out in the Atlantic, which is definitely not a very common sight to see right off the United States coast, especially. And then on top of that, we are seeing a Fujiwara, which is another very rare thing where two storms interact with each other and kind of help to steer each other in a certain way. So, on top of that, we're kind of combining two rare events, kind of making this a super rare event. Now, for Imelda, we can see that it's finally starting to get a organized look, a little bit more condensed around that low pressure center, and it's moving away from that super heavily sheared region along the US coast with that stationary front out into a more favorable area for development, which is definitely why we're seeing it get that look. Now for Umberto, it is on its last legs. This will likely turn into a post-tropical system later today as it loses its hurricane status. And that's mirrored in the National Hurricane Center's cone of uncertainty for Umberto. It is expected to lose that hurricane status probably later today. Now, one thing to note is that as storms get post-tropical, their wind fields normally expand greatly, and that is exactly what we've seen with Umberto. Here is the U.S. for scale, and we just see that the wind field of Umberto is really large. Imagine a storm stretching down all the way from Pennsylvania to Georgia, and that is roughly the size of Umberto's tropical storm wind field. We can see how far it was away from Bermuda and that it's almost reaching it. So kind of crazy there. But for Imelda, which is still kind of the top of our priority list for discussion, it is now expected to be on a collision course for Bermuda, unfortunately, potentially impacting as a Category 2 hurricane. Now, luckily, it's not really expected to see any rapid intensification into a major hurricane, which is definitely good news for Bermuda. But if you're in Bermuda, definitely be aware for all of the hurricane impacts and then just maybe some beach erosion as well. But moving away from the tropics, kind of expanding on that pattern that we've been seeing the past couple of days where it's been very quiet thunderstorm wise. We just have a couple of tongues kind of descending down from the US-Canada border into parts of the northern United States. One is going to be up here in the Pacific Northwest, associated with some front end troughing from a big cyclone rotating off the course. And then we have a big area of frontal activity out here stretching down all the way from Minnesota to central Nebraska, seeing some localized thunderstorms pretty much anywhere in this green shaded area. Then, of course, we are expecting to see some afternoon showers on the eastern coast of Florida today as well, but nothing crazy with all of these, maybe just some gusty typical thunderstorms that you're used to seeing.